Live.
Oh, I should turn my volume down.
Yeah, I just did that.
And it says we are live. Good afternoon, evening, maybe morning to everybody. I hope we are having an awesome day. I am here with my friends Stephen, Stephanie, Walter, and Shannon with our it's already March edition of the Social Review. So I want to go around everybody. Let's introduce anybody in case for some reason you don't know who we all are. Let's start with Stephen because he was the first on the Zoom.
Oh, there you go. And I'm first on so many things. Yes, really. I am a legend in my own mind. So I am Stephen.
And that's slipping too.
Okay, don't be interrupting me. All right. I am the idiot quilter. And who's next? What more should I say? That's it. Everybody knows who I am. Idiot quilter. Really? If you don't know who I am, what rock have you been under? Like, yeah. Who's next?
Stephanie will be next.
Well, no, I think the guy next to him.
Oh,
okay, we'll send it to Walter.
It's Walter. I'm Stephen, the idiot quilter's husband. I sort of do a quilt every once in a while, and I sew some clothes once in a while.
Once in a while, yeah.
Once in a while.
Yeah, I'm real organized.
Oh, we can talk about that in a little bit.
Yes.
What a segue.
What a hint.
Stephanie.
Hi there, I'm Stephanie of Quilting with Stephanie Stitches. And Walter, you're doing quilts more than once in a while now because I heard that you started rock candy.
Well, I have cut out some pieces for it.
Ooh,
That's a start. Yay.
that's awesome.
And we have Shannon.
Hi, I'm Shannon from Slay Arts. I'm not married to anybody here at all, so there's that. But I am too doing rock candy.
Awesome.
And I am Russ with Quilt Meets World. I have the fabrics for rock candy, but I haven't started cutting anything yet.
I just want to say I was going to do rock candy originally, and then Walter came up and said, "Do you have that pattern of Stephanie's?" And I said, "Which one?" He goes, "Rock candy." I said, "Why? Do you want to do it?" He said, "Yes." He's got it all cut.
Fabric.
And so I am not going to compete with Walter. I'm not putting myself in that situation because I know it'll happen. I will look bad.
There's no making you look bad. I mean, all your stuff is 100% perfect.
I like you. I have decided. I like you.
So today, I think we wanted to, discuss some of our organization techniques because that is one thing that we as quilters and we as humans occasionally have a little bit of difficulty with sometimes. There's also questions about how some of us get so much done based on how much time we have available to us. We have Stephen and Walter who are lucky enough to be retired. But they do a lot of trips, but they get a lot of stuff done. We have Stephanie who has her own home business, but so she works out of her home, but she also, does like 7,000 quilts a week, it seems. But I've also seen that she travels like, 7,000 stitches per second on her machine. She's got an awesome machine. And then you have folks like me and Shannon who have day jobs. And then Shannon has the extra commitments of, extracurricular activities with her kids. And she does improv, in case anybody hasn't known. So a lot of people just want to know how we get ourselves organized and how we, get our stuff done in our quilting world. So what is a typical day for each of us? I like Stephen to start that one because, it was part of one of the things that he wanted to ask about.
Okay, well, I'm probably not the best example of the normal type of person. And when it comes to organizing, I have always been a fanatic about organizing. Walter can tell you that. And part of that comes from being a teacher for 31 years as well. I mean, you have to be organized to be a teacher. that kind of thing. But I have little tricks that I do. Every morning when I get up and when I get dressed and everything cleaned up, I come down here, turn on the computer, and then I go over my reminder calendar that I keep up to date every day. It is kind of like a things to do list, and I will add to it during the day as well. And that's my goal, to get everything that's on that calendar for the day done. But I also I'm a note and a list keeper. So I have a program on my computer that I absolutely love. It comes with the Word, Microsoft Word suite, although I'm on a Mac, but it's called OneNote, and I think it's fantastic. I keep many, many, many pages of notes. They're all categorized on there because the program lends itself for it. And the best part is, if you have Apple products, it transfers it all over to your iPad, to your iPhone, whatever you have, keeps you up to date. So
I
that is
also
my
think that
go-to.
there's a free version of OneNote that comes with Windows, so it might actually be a free app, not part of the Word suite. Because
Yeah,
I pulled
actually,
up
you
my
might be right.
computer that doesn't have Office, and it's got OneNote on it.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, on my Windows computers, yes, I have more than one computer in this room. That's right. I don't pay for the subscription. So yeah, I think you're right. That was a freebie. I'd forgotten about that. But that keeps me organized. But during the day, then I kind of allot things out in time allotments. Again, when I first retired, I was a slave to a bell when I was working.
Mhm.
And it took me quite a while to get out of that mode of going, okay, it's now period one. I should be doing this. It's now period two. So I'm not quite like that anymore. I got over that. I mean, what that was 12 years ago. So yes, I'm old. Um, the other thing I want to say about keeping lists and about age, I'm the oldest one here in the screens, and as you get older, your memory isn't quite as good. So that's another reason why I make lists, because I'll walk into a room and I would think, oh, I've got this, and then Walter will say something to me. And I said, I was going to tell you something, and I have no idea what it was now. Out the window.
I've walked
Complete.
into rooms and forgot why I walked into them.
Yeah,
So I
I
feel
do that on a regular basis. Really start to worry when you walk into a room and start to go to the bathroom and realize you're in the living room. Then you have a real problem. Okay.
poor plants.
Yeah, or the carpeting, I don't know. But I arrange everything the day sort of in chunks, and I move from one job to the next. And some people might think, what about multitasking? Because everybody knows that women are the best multitaskers in the world. I say bullshit on that one.
Multitasking doesn't exist.
Yeah, that doesn't. No, it doesn't. Multitasking does not exist. Oh, Stephanie's sitting there. Yes, it does. And Shannon's, I can't.
Oh no, I
No.
know it's scientifically proven that you can't multitask. I'm good. I'm hip.
Yeah. Anybody who says they're a multitasker, it's an illusion or a
Yeah.
delusion, whichever
Yeah,
you
you
call
can
it.
have an embroidery machine running while you're running the sewing machine, or you can have the long arm running while you're doing the sewing machine. But
That's
that's
true. But you
technically
want to know
not
something?
multitasking.
As soon as I do that, one of the machines decides it's lonely and it's not getting enough attention, and
Yeah.
it does horrible things
Yep.
to me. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But Lucy will misbehave herself. That's the long arm. Or my embroidery machine will suddenly jump in the air. It's going, oh yeah, I'm popping your hoop. And you only have 5 minutes
Or
left
your
on that
3D
2 hour job.
printers do some.
Or the print, yep, all that kind. Oh yeah, my 3D printers, yeah, they do stuff. But anyways, the whole point of what I'm saying is, during my day is, it is organized. I have set times for things. Yes, I don't always follow that. Things change, life happens, and the whole bit. But if I'm not organized, I would be a complete mental case, and I would get nothing done. So it has to be that way for me. So who's next? Now you want to hear the contrast. Walter, how do you
Yeah, we can go to Walter. Before I head to Walter, I just want to let everybody know, if you have questions or any comments about what we're doing, you feel free to hit that in the chat. We are watching the chat. We are going to take anything that you say and incorporate it into our conversation, just to make sure that you feel like you guys are getting some information out of this too, if you have questions about anything specifically we talk about. So Walter, let's go.
I'm
You
totally
keep yourself organized on a typical day.
I'm not organized. I've never been organized. Work forced me to be organized. I had to be organized. Even at work, I would have been, I would start doing stuff without any organization and then find myself in a situation where I would have to get organized. And I do the same thing at home now. I get up late because I stay up late, and then I sort of do sort of things that I do every day, like look up my bank accounts and do my organization and all that other stuff. And then when I get around to it, I might do some sewing, which I never seem to get around to sometimes. I go in spurts. Like I'll just few days I'll be really intense in sewing, and then in other days I just and I just putter around the house and do stuff. That's the way I've always been. Stephen is very organized, and that's why I get so much done, and that's why I don't get a lot done.
Except when it comes to planning trips.
When it comes to planning trips, I'm usually pretty organized. I get everything together because I like that part of it. And even when I'm doing a project like a sewing project, like a shirt or something else, I'm organized in that I'll read the pattern from front to back and get things together and organized that before I start. I'm like that. I don't like not being organized that way. Yeah, same with anything. If I buy something new, I'm always reading the instructions from front to back and things like that. So,
So you read the full manual for your new car?
Almost.
Yes.
Almost all 600 pages of it.
Yep.
So now we know the person who actually reads the manuals for their sewing machines.
Yeah.
That would be Walter.
Actually, I did read the entire manual for the actually, that's not true. I did skip over like blind hemming and things like that, which I didn't really think I needed to know right away.
Well, that's because you're a sighted person. You don't need to know about blind hemming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically me. I do I'm not overly organized. That's why I'm the idiot's husband.
Yeah, because I keep them organized.
And Steve gets up early. I don't get up early. He goes to bed early. I stay up late. That's the way it always works.
To you, the odd couple.
Yeah. Yeah, we basically are at times. His underwear is on the floor. Mine's in the laundry basket. Yeah. Too much information?
Is the underwear on the floor 2 feet from the laundry basket?
No, half a room away. Yeah.
Okay, that makes me feel better. I get annoyed if it's right next to it, but if it's on the other side of the room, that's fine.
Yeah,
Now,
except
I do
the robo
have
goes in.
some partially organized fabrics and partially unorganized fabrics because I've run out of room where the organized part is.
Yeah. So who's next?
Let's go to Stephanie.
Oh, okay.
Because that way we get the people who have, the most time and how they get their day done, and then we'll slowly narrow down the time space.
Well, I don't know if you could say I have the most time because I do have a business.
Well, Stephen and Walter had the most
He
time.
met
You had
us.
the next most time.
Yeah, because I have a business and I have 4 kids and we homeschool our children. Right now it's really, really busy. I'm getting Sarah's college application and all her things together for the fall semester. So I've been busy grading pretty much all day today during the sew day. It was bouncing between sewing and then grading something and then working with her, and I was going in a million directions. So my days are fairly organized, but they have to be flexible because I do have 4 kids. So I write a weekly list that looks something like this, usually with a whole list of things to do, and hope that I accomplish those things by the end of every week. I don't do a day-to-day. I used to do that, but I don't anymore because I would get really upset with myself if I didn't finish something that day. But life happens. Sometimes you can't finish something that day. Sometimes you have unexpected things that happen in the day. So now I base everything on a week. I do look at my weekly list every day and I say, okay, I'd like to knock off those 2 or those 3 today. And if I get a couple of them done and not all 3, I'm okay with that too. But I do think I am fairly organized. Like right now, I'm getting everything for the Millersburg retreat going. So this is my Bible right now. This is my retreat book. And I've got everything organized in folders by color. I have lists, and I have a list in the front of what I need to do still for Millersburg. So that's quite a big list yet. But I'm just ticking them off one at a time. So that's kind of how I stay organized with the business stuff. And yeah, I
Jason-
write a lot of lists.
Stephanie, when you showed me that binder, I know now why I love you. Color coordinated tabs. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Lists in the front. Oh, yes.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
It's all about the school supplies.
Oh, yes.
I love August when school supplies come out.
Oh, I do too. It's one of my favorite times of the year.
I
But
do
yeah, I
have a
have to
couple
be-
trapper keepers thanks to
Yeah,
school
I
supplies.
have to write lists, like Stephen. I have to constantly update them and check things off because I am going in a million directions all the time. I have the kids, I have the business. I'm constantly getting emails and phone calls and being pulled all over the place. So if I don't have a list, I will drop the ball on something. So that's how I stay organized.
Awesome. Shannon, what is your typical startup
So-
go down of a day?
For
Pet the
me,
kitty.
yeah, give enough attention to every
Little
cat,
spoiled
which is
kitty, so cute.
impossible. But so for me, kind of my life has always been kind of crazy busy. And I started doing this thing, time boxing thing, when I was in high school because I played the school team sport and the rec team sport at the same time. I worked a part-time job and then going to school and had to fit a social life in there too because I wasn't an idiot. I was gonna have fun. So I started doing this time boxing thing where when there's a lot of things happening all at one time, I will in 15-minute increments write down what my plan is for the day, what I need to be doing in those 15-minute increments. So like last year when I needed to get 3 legit kits done and I knew I needed to have it done by this time, my day was planned fully. So any type of lunch hour that I could take to get something done, I knew exactly what I wanted to get done, whether that was cutting out fabric or pattern pieces or whatever, what have you. So when there's a crunch time like that, where I feel like now I'm in a crunch time, getting things ready for some retreat action stuff. Tonight's goal is to start another time boxed for the next 3 months. But what I found when I was in high school was the only way that I was going to be able to be sane was to know that once that busy period was done was to stop doing, like, I wasn't time boxing all the time because I'd go crazy and I'd get disappointed. So I only do that when I start feeling stressed out. Like when I start feeling that I'm forgetting things that need to be done, I'll be like, oh, I need some sanity in my life. I need to time box all this stuff, figure out what needs to be done when, and work pretty hard to stick really, really close to it with the understanding that life happens, I'll get sick or something will happen. But when I've time boxed it like that, I know this sounds so anal. I'm always finishing before the deadline is so that if there's some like scope creep, I can slip into that extra time and not miss the deadline. But when that busy time is over, then I go back to just being like, I'll get done what gets done. It's all good. Like back into like a Zen time. But oftentimes there's 3 months of, oh my God, go, before I can just kind of zone out and be okay.
I'm laughing at your time box, not because I'm laughing at the concept, because I did the same thing when I was in university. And being an English major, I was constantly reading 3 or 4 novels at the same time, writing 2 or 3 essays at the same time and all the other stuff. And I started with a single piece of paper. By the time I was in my 4th year, I had a wall that looked like the scheduling for a major network company.
Yeah.
And color coordinated. And just like you, I worked ahead of the schedule because it made me feel good and it meant that I didn't feel guilty when I was at a kegger. At
Yep.
that time, because you always
But
heard
but I scheduled that in. I scheduled the
yeah.
so like in high school, I scheduled the social time in, and
Yeah.
like when I was doing the legit kit stuff, I was scheduling stupid Shannon time, watch TV with the kids time, but I was scheduling it in so I knew I wouldn't feel guilty that I was doing it. Because when I start to feel guilty about what I'm doing, then I am in danger of saying to hell with it all and just throwing the time box stuff
That's a
away.
true statement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it gets too much. So if I plan in, be stupid time, I feel much better, like much more accomplished.
You have to make a system that will work for you. If it adds stress to something that's supposed to help you relieve the stress, then you've got to reshape it to make it
Yeah.
work.
Oh, when it makes me feel so good to have it all written down and know, okay, now I've got a plan, and if I stick to it, I'm gonna be smooth sailing. Nothing makes me happier than that. It's so good.
I love checking it off. It makes
Yes.
That's
Or-
satisfying.
it's so orgasmic. Oh, I checked it off. Oh my God. So
So
I
we
need a little
go
more
from
foreplay, but yeah.
yeah.
we go from real organization stuff to I'm just basically chaos with my day. A lot of it is, my day job and everything. Some days I don't know if I'm going to be getting out on time or if I'm going to be working till like 7 or 8 p.m. because of production issues. So that makes it difficult at times. Thankfully, I've been able to have weekends free where I just say, come in here and do whatever I want. I like when I do my Saturday morning lives, I usually don't decide what I'm working on until Friday night, which is not necessarily a good thing, but that's what keeps me going and it keeps myself working. My whole ADHD, if I try to pick something, a week in advance, I'm like, do I really want to work on that? But I also, have deadlines that I have self-imposed. I have, graduation quilts that the tops need to be done by the end of the year in order for them to get quilted and then back to me in time for me to bind them for graduation next year. So I do have things that I try to block out time for, but on like Saturday and Sunday when I have almost no commitments, I'll just come in here and find something to work on, figure out what hasn't had a chime to be, what hasn't been worked on in a minute and just say, I'm going to work on that. Or I'll find a new project and say, that sounds like something that I want to work on now, which is what started my, Saturday live this past week. I had no idea what I was going to work on. Nothing that I needed to get done felt tasty. So I just said, let's start something new. It's it's been a little bit of a problem because I'm a very habitual starter and I've got works in progress that I have to keep organized now because they've started and I got to make sure that I don't accidentally drop something for something else. Uh, Especially I don't want to use fabric that's set for one thing and use it for something else because I've done that.
Mhm.
But yeah, my typical days are very atypical. I try to get here in the evenings after work, get at least a little bit of sewing done. This week it's not happened because daylight savings time has kicked my butt this year. But keeping things organized, I don't, and I need to start working on that. So I'm going to be definitely trying to take some of y'all's tips on getting my days organized. I do use my smart speaker to help keep me to do reminders. So tonight's trash night. So I have a reminder in my phone that is telling me in 5 minutes I need to take out the trash. Otherwise, I would forget it. I have all of my regularly scheduled events on my calendar to have it reminded because otherwise I will forget. If I need to do something that is kind of out of the ordinary, I'll just yell to my smart speaker to remind me to do something at a certain point. and that usually gets it done. Sometimes it'll just stay in my little reminder list until I have time to get it done. Because when I say, hey, remind me at 10 a.m. to do something, I may be in a meeting and not be able to get around to it until 3 days later. Um, I actually had to do something this morning that I had my reminder a week ago. But because of the way that work has been, I couldn't do it for a week.
You know,
So,
I think there's an important thing there too. You know, we've all talked about in our own way how we organize on a list, with the exception of Walter, with all these kind of things. But you know, making lists is good, but if you don't get through your list on the day, I have found I don't leave it at the top and say, okay, I'm going to go back and do that, because then you get overwhelmed. What I do is I reschedule it and put it in a new spot on my reminder list, or
reprioritize it for the
yeah,
next list.
kind of a thing, because otherwise you get bogged down. At least I do. And I find it becomes overwhelming. And then once you get overwhelmed, you don't want to do anything. You just want to lay on a couch and watch a documentary and fall asleep for a while. Well, okay, enough about my afternoons, but Walter's laughing because it's true.
Well,
But, but there's some questions here that are pertaining to
yeah,
organizing
I want to
your
say
staff and stuff.
Yeah.
videos for Sylvia just asked. I know there are a couple of questions before, but this one makes me laugh. She asked about how do you keep track of what you've ordered or pre-ordered? And I have so many times gotten packages of the same damn fabric.
Yep. Or same book.
Yeah.
So many
Or-
times.
The
Or
same
even,
quilting pattern.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or
As
with
organized as I
Amazon,
try to be.
I would pre-order something and then 3 months later pre-order it again. And Amazon doesn't tell you all the time that you've already pre-ordered it.
No.
And then I've had things come in. I've got 2 of them now.
Found it. Been there. Got a t-shirt. Yep. Twice.
Yeah. As organized as I try to be, once I've spent the money, it's out of sight, out of mind. I'm like, whatever. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, that's really pretty. Well, at least I know I really liked it.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Liked it so much you got it twice. Yeah. Done that. Evelyn wants to know about a storage thing, and I think we're going to talk about how we organize our sewing rooms and stuff like that. But here's a question I'm sure a lot of people have different answers to, or maybe not have an answer to, is how do you store your quilts? Do you fold and put it on the shelf? So
First,
how
you gotta finish them.
that's Jen?
So first you got to finish them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe we should be asking, how do you store your whips or your UFOs? Yeah. So Stephanie, you do a lot of quilts. Probably you do more quilts in a given time period than any of us, possibly all 3 of us or 4 of us combined. So what do you do with them? Where do you store them?
So I store the ones, okay, so there's kind of like, for me, 2 sets of quilts. There's quilts that are sample quilts, like the rock candy on the wall behind me. And then there's quilts that are just utility quilts, like my kids can use and things like that, right? So those kind of just lay on kids' beds, on the couches, wherever in the house. But things that are samples for like retreat quilts, or like this behind me that are for a pattern I wrote, those I keep away from the family because they'll be stained and messy and and I don't want to remake them. So those I fold up and I wish I had one of those bags that you turned us onto.
Yeah.
I used to just fold them up and put them in tubs and leave the lid off, because you're not supposed to keep them in a plastic tub with the top on. But now that you've forget who turned us on to this. Was it Sue that does
I think it was Sue.
Okay, Sue from Missouri that does the sew day with us. She turned us on to these bags from Amazon, and Stephen got some and they worked out great. So then I got some. And so now I'm filling those. I've got about 12 of those full.
Wow.
And running out of space for any more. But that means I need to start giving away quilts. And I do, after I've made a bunch of quilts, and especially ones that I've just done for like a YouTube project or something like that, like the oversized potato chip quilt, right? I haven't quilted that one yet, but once I quilt that, that's going to be a charity quilt. just because I know it's not something I'm gonna like, it's not a pattern that I'm gonna like put out, and it's not something that like my kids are gonna want. So that'll be a charity quilt. So that's how I kind of separate, I guess, my quilts. Like the ones that my kids want, they'll kind of be around the house, and the ones that are for my business, I'll fold up, and then everything else goes to charity. So
Do your business quilts eventually go out to like charity or family?
Sometimes, but it just depends on what I'm doing with them. I've done some trunk shows around Ohio from different guilds that asked me to come out. And so those quilts I try to keep, especially if I have a pattern to go with it, because then I can take patterns and sell them, to match the quilt. So most of the business ones, no, but I have a lot less business quilts than I have like quilts that I give away or for my kids or whatever. So yeah.
And Landon just asked about the bag, so I just put a link in the chat for the
Oh, I
bag.
was looking it up to show. Good. Okay, good.
Yeah, because
Great.
Stephen was talking about them in one of the so days, and I said share the link. So I bought
Yeah.
some too. I haven't used them yet.
I might have one over here. Let me go look really quick.
I do have that.
I've got a set of them
They're great.
waiting for whenever I actually have some things completed. I've just everything that I've completed that I've needed to finish has been things that I've been giving to somebody. So I've just they're out of the house because, or they're in the kids' room because they're using them. Everything else, I'm super bad at finishing. Infrequent finisher. That's me.
No, I didn't have one. They're all upstairs. So yeah.
But well, Russ found the link anyway. So
Yeah.
they're great. They breathe. They've got a clear
Mhm.
little spot where you can see what's in there. And I keep all of my, well, I have filled 12, about the same number of bags as Stephanie actually with quilts, and then I store the rest of my quilts folded up and on. Right now I have a stack on an ottoman in the rec room. They do hang on various chairs in the house. I've filled the walls with them hanging on it, and yeah, I got to start. I keep saying I'm going to give them away. I've given some away. I need to find, like, finding charities is very difficult. You would think that they would just open their arms up and say, yes, give me whatever. No, getting people to call you back or to email you back about the thing. I went through a month before I actually ended up talking to somebody from Project Linus about
crazy.
quilts. So it's kind of frustrating because you think, you're doing a nice thing and you're giving these, and I don't know. But anyways, yeah, I keep them that way. And I got to do a purge. When we come back from Australia, I have to do a purge because I got way too many, way too many. So Shannon, what do you do?
So if the things that I do complete, if they don't come with their own like pretty little box to save them in, like Cotton Cuts or like the designer block of the month thing where all those finished blocks are sitting in the box that all the stuff came in. I like these guys. This actually has a project in it, but I'll end up stacking a bunch of flimsies in these with like the backing that I'm going to be using and the binding, because I'm organized that way. I just haven't finished them. So I have many of these, and I get these like whenever Joanne has like a good sale and like a coupon or whatever, I'll get these.
Because it's illegal to go shopping there without a coupon.
Exactly.
Yeah. You can't afford anything with a coupon.
So that's, I mean, at least I have what backing I was planning on using and the binding that I was planning on using. So when I do finally kick Evan out of the basement and I get the long arm, I'll be ready to go. But I don't know how many years from now that's going to be.
I love those project boxes. I used them way back before I was a quilter, when I was a scrapbooker and a paper crafter. Yep. I use those project box too, and I still do, and do very much what you do too. I put the pattern in there, the fabric I'm going to use, and everything. And then when
I've got one for
it,
if it's not, unless it's a legit kit, just because of how much fabric is required for a legit kit, and that's when I use the accordion file thing. This huge, oh Lord, this big old mamma jamma is what I put the legit kits in because it has all the fabric, all the pattern pieces, all of it. But everything else, like the New York Beauty, all of those fabrics that I'm using, the pattern pieces for the upcoming week, that's all in one of those little cases. So everything else goes in one of those to keep me organized. And then I just run around going, where did I put that one?
I've done that because
Where did I put that one last week?
I have like a dozen or so of these, and they're filled with the various projects. Like this is one of the graduation quilts. Forget. Oh, this one's one of my other nieces. But it's got, you know, all the fabric in there, stuff that I've already cut, stuff that needs to be cut, the backgrounds, the pattern, all the way down to the backing is in there. So I have everything in there. And, you know, when it's time, like these are too big for me to do on my long arm. So when it's time for me to bring everything to the long arm, I can just bring a couple of these to the long arm and say, hey, here's the bins that everything's together with them. We just got to figure out the quilting patterns. So it helps on the long arm side. And at that point, they take it out and they put it on their hangers and stuff so that, you know, they do their organization stuff and I get to take the bins back and fill them up with new stuff.
You use one of these.
Oh,
my Dymo labeler.
I love my labeler. Ask Walter. Every drawer, shelves, boxes, everything has a label on it. I love making
like
labels.
Sheldon Cooper.
I know, but I love labels. I always have. And this is my most favorite tool. I cannot live without my labeler. And Walter doesn't have it right now, but occasionally I will stick ones on his head just to remember who he is. So
oh jeez.
Yeah.
I have a labeler. I just haven't used it much because I feel like labels are more permanent than they are. I know they can be temporary, easily peeled off, but if I put a label on here, I feel like that's too permanent.
You have commitment issues.
No idea why. It's a mental thing. But like I have put the various labels on things that I know that are fully permanent. I've started trying to get some of my outlets labeled, like in an office, because not all of the outlets in the same room are on the same circuit. So doing just like little like even letters or something so that it's not very conspicuous, but enough that you can look. It works great. But when it comes to trying to label, you know, my project boxes, I know what the project is based on the pattern that's in there and the fabric. So I don't always need a label on a box.
I do. Just because I like to make them.
Just because you like to make them.
It's so clean and sleek looking.
I know it is. It's so nice when you.
They are fun to make.
So I'm dying to find out how, or if I know already, but I'm dying to hear how he'll say it. So Walter, how do you organize the projects that you've made?
I put them in boxes.
And
if I have leftovers, or
most of your stuff is hung up in the closet because they're my shirts.
yeah, those that. I mean, I don't have too many other projects that I have. I have a couple of bags on the go, but they're stuffed in other bags.
That's one way to keep
I
it
need to do. But I mean, I don't have a lot of stuff on the go at any one point in time. I usually sort of do one project at a time, or I might have one in waiting to be finished or something. So I like to do one and then go to another one type of thing. I don't.
So a serial project person instead of parallel.
So like me, I was working on a shirt and then Steve wanted me to do a shirt. So I dropped my shirt that I was working on for myself and made him a shirt. And now I'm going back to the shirt that I was making.
That's the other way he organizes things. It's my fault. Oh, it's always my fault. Oh, well, I would have put that away, except you interrupted me because you demanded that you make.
And I do have a quilt sitting in a box somewhere that's all squares that I have to actually put together, but I haven't. They've been in that box for a couple of years now.
Oh.
And speaking of all of this stuff that Walter's talking about, I think Walter should deal with this question next. They want to know some people want to know how we, of course, organize our fabrics. Walter, how do you organize your fabrics?
I've got a
You
lot of
lie,
them in
don't you
my two
lie.
shelves, right? And then I've got a bunch in drawers. I don't
And you
like
have,
having them in drawers because I like having them in shelves because then I can see where they are.
and Walter has a tip for organizing to use the most space possible, get the most use out of the space in your sewing room. Don't neglect the floor. It is
Yeah,
wide open
well,
for a lot of stuff.
I had to clean off some space on my shelves to put fabric on it. So I put the boxes that were on my shelves on the floor.
I swear Jimmy Hoffa's body's in there somewhere, but they'll never
As
find it.
long as fabric is not touching floor, I see no issue with that.
Well,
No, there's no fabric on the floor.
and what is it that I'm stepping on when I go in there?
No, there's bags. I've got bags of stuff here.
Okay, could be birds. We don't know. We used to have a cat. I haven't seen her in years.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Aw.
As the doors slowly start sliding
Well, in
open.
Steve's case, just don't open any of the closet doors in this house because he's rams everything in a closet and shuts the door.
Oh, you gave away my
Uh-oh.
organizational
He's
secret.
sharing your dirty little secret.
It
Oh,
is
Stephen poked the bear one too many times. Walter's giving up the goods now.
only one cupboard. It's the linen
Only
closet.
one.
The linen closet. I hate folding towels, but
Folding towels is easy.
no, Walter sometimes just gets frustrated enough with it. He'll be in there and I hear him and he's digging everything out and throwing it on the floor in the hallway and reorganizing it and putting it in. So, in a
Mission
sense, I have a
accomplished.
strategy. Yeah. I don't like to fold towels, so he does it. And somebody wanted you, Russ, they said, how do you organize your fabric? Melissa says, and patterns.
I don't beyond like if it's a project that I'm planning, it goes into a bin unless it's already in a pretty box, like right here, already in a pretty box. So I don't have to organize this yet. Cotton cuts, it gets organized in their boxes because so they're like that. If I buy fabric, just to look at, it ends up going into one of the many shelves that is either behind me or in the other room, just as storage until I find the perfect project for it. So there's lots of it just goes and sits. It doesn't do a lot of moving around. I need better organization back here. When I was building out the space, a friend of mine helped me get it built out and organized and everything. And we thought that the calyx units would be perfect until we found out you can't really store much in them. The comic book boards, I don't even think, actually they would fit in there, but there's a lot of stuff that I purchased that does not fit cleanly in those shelves. So whenever I start to either rebuild this room out again, or as I start to plan my sewing room extension, Billy bookshelves are going to be in the
Billy bookcases, yep.
because they are
Yep.
awesome, and
are.
I've seen so much done with them. So that's my future goal. I don't know if Billy's can really go on this wall because I've got the soffit up here and I've got an uneven floor on that end. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. I can't quite get all the way to the end over there. So
So you mentioned the comic book boards, and I'm not sure if everybody that's on here knows what we mean by the comic book boards. And Shannon, you've probably
Yes.
got a really good example of what that looks like.
So this is, I think, a half yard of a grunge. And I just fold it over a comic book board.
like a bolt.
Like a little mini bolt. Just and when you have child labor, young adult labor in the house, you can make them do it with you. And then it just stays like a little mini bolt until I want to use it. And that's
So
how
you,
all of this is done.
you
And
use
you
that
can,
for half yard and up cuts, I'm assuming?
Yeah, half yard. I'm finding that as much as I like fat quarters, storing fat quarters drives me bonkers. I can't
Because
have
they're
not.
all folded differently.
Yes, it's frustrating, and yeah. So I've been moving away from. I've just been saying, forget it, I'm just gonna get half yards, so I can store them pretty. Plus, really, I mean, more fabric's more fabric. So
fat quarters are a bit of a bitch to figure out how you're to store them. The way I do it right now is I have Alex units that are actually they're the supports for my cutting table. And I put them in, I can put them up on their end. Usually if you, they'll fit in some of those drawers, like, because the ones I have a couple of narrower drawers and a couple of wider drawers. And the wider drawers, you can put them up on their end so you can pull out the drawer and look and see all your colors in nice order of color. Yeah, I'd wish mine looked like that, but my problem is they never stay like that with it. And I just start ramming them in, and then, you know, occasionally I pull them all out and then reorganize them. But they work well for that kind of thing. That's how I
Do
do
you
those.
organize yours by color, or do you just shove them in your Alex drawers?
Oh, I just shoved them in the Alex drawers. I started organizing them by color, but yeah, that wasn't working out so well. So and then when I get a fat quarter bundle, like you know, a whole bundle of fabrics, I've been putting those on my little cart, leaving them tied up. You know, like I don't separate them out because, you know, they all will go together for a project. And now I have to stop buying those because I have all these bundles because they're so pretty, but
And you don't want to break into them.
yeah, that's the problem with it.
stuff.
I'm a fabric slut.
So to get back to the comic book boards, the main reason why we use comic book boards is because they don't have the acid or something in them. So they are safe to keep against your fabric for long terms, just like they're safe to keep with your comic books for long terms. So
and I thought about cutting them in half to use them for fat quarters, but I was like, oh my, that is so much work.
Yeah.
I'm not cutting a bunch of comic book boards in half. And then
that's when you need to raid the teacher's lounge and get that big crunk machine.
Yes.
Have one.
I used to
Thought you
love
would.
that.
Yeah.
He has a paper cutter that'll cut 400 sheets at once.
Yep. It'll cut a whole ream of paper in half with no problem. Also
That's
body parts.
sexy, Steven. That's
yeah,
sexy.
that is very sexy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Goes back to the whole school supply thing.
Don't
Yeah.
get me started telling you about my laminator.
Woo! Talk paper to me.
Oh, oh. No more,
I
no
have
more.
one of those too.
Oh.
So I am curious about Stephanie's fabrics because she buys them by the bolts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
how
was
do
gonna
you
say,
sort of-
I don't really have fabrics to put on comic boards like you guys do because all of my fabrics, I either have kits, fat quarters, or bolts. And the bolts come from my shop. And of course, I take fabrics off of them for myself as well. So I have 5 Billy bookcases on the other side of my sewing room that all have bolts on them. But then once I get the things off the bolts that I want and put like a kit together for myself, this is how I store my kits in boxes like this with the pattern, all the fabrics and everything in there. So everything's all together. And then I also had the same problem as you guys, figuring out how to store fat quarters. It drove me crazy for years. I would shove them in the Alex drawers, and that made me nuts because they got really messy and I couldn't find anything. And if I was digging for something, then I messed all of them up and they were all out of the drawer. And I just couldn't find a really good solution. So I was on Amazon one day just looking up storage organizations, and I found these boxes, and the fat quarters fit perfectly in here.
Oh.
So now I get these and I fill them and I stack them on the bookshelves. So I love them. You can put multiple on top of each other, and I love them. The fat quarters fit in here really nicely.
And you get to see them still.
and
Yeah.
you get to see them still. And somebody had asked how we can see our fabrics if they're stored away. Well, I have the Billy bookcases for the bolts, and then I've got a couple other cabinets that are IKEA. Almost everything I have is IKEA. I'm sure most people in the craft rooms are. I have a couple
Love
other
the idea.
cabinets that are from IKEA that have clear or glass fronts, so I can see everything inside. So
Yeah, somebody else mentioned that about the Billy cases or whatever with the glass doors so you can see what you've got inside, but yet they're still, protected from dust and animal fur and everything else in that, which is a great idea.
Yeah.
So there was another question on here. Someone asked where to buy the boards. I get them from Amazon. I put the link, but it's for the Amazon.ca link, but it'll give you what they're called. And you just,
Shannon also pasted the US
US.
Amazon link,
oh, okay. So
Yep.
they're there for both Canadians and Americans.
and I will try to get all these links in the description below for anybody watching the replay.
And there was another question here, slipped by, which now I'm trying to find it. Oh yeah, this is from Ellen, who's on here's videos for Sylvia, but Sylvia is her mom's name. Yeah, I was reading this, so that's how I know. Do you have a way of keeping track of what fabric you have and what you have ordered or pre-ordered, and what are you thinking of doing with and what you are thinking of doing with that fabric? So a couple of questions buried in here. So how
So
We
do
touched
we,
some of that earlier.
yeah, that was, we talked
Yeah.
about how we end up with it ordered twice.
Multiples.
yeah,
But
Yeah.
that's a good question about how we keep track of what we had planned for it. Because when I first started ordering fabric like a lunatic, when I had none, I was just starting off and I just ordered from SEWCIAL like I had an addiction. I always thought I had a plan for what the fabric was that I was getting, and then I would get it and be like, what was I planning to use this for? I don't remember.
I've had that happen many times.
Yeah,
I buy something and there's times where I buy something and I have a zero plan for it, but there's been times where I bought something, had a plan for it. I I actually have a bag that I found that I purchased at a local quilt shop. And it has a whole bunch of fabrics that I know there was an intent for something, but I have no idea what it was for. No idea.
yeah. I see. I don't buy fabric that way. I go into the fabric store and I look, and if it catches my eye, I go, oh, I like that. And then what I'll do is if I find one fabric that I like, I go, well, if I'm going to use this in a project and I don't have a project in mind at that point in time, usually, then I'll look for coordinates for it. And I'll put that together kind of, and then I take it home and throw it on my shelf somewhere on there and promptly forget about it. And so I will shop my stash when I see a new pattern. But it doesn't matter how much fabric you've got. I have always found I still have to buy more for the
I never understood that.
No, I
It
don't know why.
happens all the time.
Yep. And I know people, it drives me nuts when I go into the quilt store and customer comes up behind me and goes, oh, that's nice fabric. What are you going to do with it? And I'll look at them and go, I don't know. It's
this
pretty. Yeah.
I've done
that
that.
will be pretty on my bookshelf.
Pretty on my shelves.
So ask Walter how he if he's ever duplicated a buy or how you've already told us how you store your fabric on the floor.
No, I don't usually duplicate stuff because
Your mind like a steel trap, yeah.
yeah,
And
well,
illegal in 13 states.
I
Yeah.
kind of remember what I have or stuff. I'll buy something I like at the time for maybe a shirt, and then later on think, no, I don't know if I like it. And so it sits on my shelf. Or I'll make a bag out of it or something like that, or have an intention of making a bag for it or something. I don't know. But I buy enough to make a shirt out of it, and then I'll have extra if I have it for make it for something else.
Or Steven ends up making a quilt out of all the extras.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
did.
yeah, but the same problem as Steve said, like, yeah, you buy all this stuff and then you just suddenly decide to do some project and the fabric that you don't work, doesn't work for the project you want to do.
Yeah, I've done that. That's been the worst when trying to buy fabrics online, trying to coordinate a bunch of stuff. Unless you buy from the same line, it gets difficult. So
Or if you buy from, you look at the fabric online and you think, oh, I really like that fabric. And then you buy it and
get
then
it,
you get it and
and
it's
it's
like,
not what
well,
you thought it was.
not
Yeah.
as nice as I thought it was.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm just looking to see if anybody's got more questions. Oh, there was a question about the boxes, but I see Stephanie's already put the link in for that.
Yep.
For the
And I
fat
will.
quarter ones, yeah. And then somebody asked me about the project box.
Mm.
Unfortunately, these are not on the market anymore. They had them through the pandemic and then they kind of disappeared, which is sad for me because I really love them. But they were from a Riley Blake designer called Jill Finley. I love them. I wish they would bring them back. So
What about the square boxes you had for the fat quarters?
these boxes here?
Yeah, the rectangular ones.
Yeah, I put a link in the chat for this one. This is on
Oh, okay.
Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah, that link is there.
I like those. Those are deeper. There was a girl that I followed on Instagram, and she got these ones from Target, but they were shorter. And so I ended up having to like refold every fat quarter, which was time consuming and frustrating. So I like that those are deeper.
I'll get a couple more and show you.
Well, Jean, while she's doing that, Jeannie
Yeah.
asked a question. Walter, have you thought about making by Annie caddies like Adam Sews makes?
Yes, I have. I have a couple actually bag patterns that I've been wanting to do, but I haven't got around to it. Yeah, but Steve, made one of those soul caddies, like that Adam made and gave one to me. So yeah, I wouldn't mind making a few other bags and stuff like caddies and that. But I
I
haven't
want
done
to
it
learn
yet.
how to make the bags and caddies and stuff, and I hadn't had time. But after seeing what Adam made me, I definitely want to try to figure out how to make some so I can make some really cools as well. And my sister has been gracious enough that she's volunteered to take any of my trial bags.
Your sister seems to get a lot of that stuff, doesn't she? I think you're being used.
Yeah.
Just
I mean, I
saying.
am her personal sweatshop. I should make her start doing my taxes.
Yeah.
Oh, I make Walter do mine.
So for those of you
Yeah,
who
see,
like to
that's the
buy
other
like
thing I have to do.
Yeah.
so for those of you who like to buy like a full collection fat quarter bundle, and sometimes they're really big, you can fit a full collection in one of these.
Ooh.
Oh,
So that's like a full collection. And then Shannon, you were mentioning how they fold them differently sometimes.
Yeah.
So like this one, they were folded differently. So I had to do half of them this way to make them fit, and then I just turned the other half that way.
Yeah.
But they all fit and they stack, like I said, really nicely on my shelf. So just like that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And then you can see them all and everything that's in there because they're clear. So
Yep.
I think I'm gonna have to get a couple of these.
Yeah, they look, except I don't have any place to put them. That's the
Yeah, the same
problem.
problem.
I love containers. I
yeah.
love the dollar store is my favorite
Do
place.
you have a
You put a
container store in
label on it.
Canada?
Yes, we do. Well,
Okay.
We
we
used to.
used to, but there's a new one we've just discovered really close to us that's attached to like one of those big industrial storage places where you can get a barn that it's called, what's that called? Dyna something?
Diamond.
Diamond. And yeah, they've got a
DYMON.
lot of really cool stuff in there, but it's expensive in there.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was too bad.
Okay, I stand corrected. He
The
thought it was.
container store is
It wasn't
very.
any worse than those solution stores that we used
No,
to
but
have.
we don't have those anymore.
No.
But you can get a lot of decent container stuff at your dollar store as
Yeah.
well.
Yes.
And
One of the-
IKEA and that. So
Yeah,
you
IKEA's
just
got
gotta go
lots
in
of-
there thinking that it can be used for something else. Like
Yeah.
the clear boxes that Stephanie shared the link to, they're fridge boxes.
Right.
And if you look at something with the way that it's marketed to you, you're not going to find creative ways to store and organize your stuff in other areas. So I really like that because it's not the prescribed use of it.
Yeah. And Russ, you can on your Calyx, because I had the Calyx units before I got the Billy. So like I upgraded to the Billy. You can stack these 2 side by side and then 2 high. So that will help a little bit with your Calyx. So
there you go.
Part of my
Another-
organizing myself when I start to have time again.
And Susan wants to know, Stephanie, do those boxes hold charm
charm
packs as
packs.
well?
yeah, they definitely could. They're I think they're 6 inches tall, so a charm pack will fit. Let me grab a charm pack and I'll show you.
Stephanie's got
Said
all the cool
IKEA.
stuff available to her.
Oh, there you go.
These are from IKEA. I hadn't even thought about doing these for fat quarters, but this is where I have all my charm packs in.
Oh,
Oh,
And it's just the stuff that they have in the Billy bookcase area of things to do. And it fits nicely.
Shannon, you keep reaching down behind you. Are you using that Walter's method? Do you utilize your floor?
No, it's on the bookcase.
she's got several
Oh.
shelves of a bookcase there.
Yeah,
there you go.
Okay. Sure she
Charm
does.
pack.
Yeah,
Oh, I
look at that.
utilize the floor for sure, but they just have to be on bookcases.
So there, you can see the charm packs fit in those ones as well, too. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's awesome. So we just need a different storage for our layer cakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see mine are just lined up right here. Yeah.
No, my layer cakes are in one of my drawers, but I lay them flat, which it's not the best way because you can't really see if they're on their ends. You can sort of, peel them back and see what you've got in there for colors and things. Of course, what usually ends up is I take the stupid cardboard band or whatever's holding them all together, and then they all get mixed up anyways, and then my drawer looks like a scrap drawer until I clean it up every now and then. Oh, there's a good question. No one's asked that yet. So, how do you store your scraps?
Are you talking to me?
Anybody?
Scraps?
Oh,
I
let me
give
show
them to
you.
Steven.
This is where my scraps go
Uh,
before it goes in the trash can.
oh my God, that's so neat. I love that garbage can. Where did
I
you
know.
get that?
It's amazing. Isn't it beautiful?
It is. It's
I
absolutely
love
lovely.
it.
Oh, whoever made that's a genius.
So they go
Very
in
much
here,
so.
and then on garbage day, they go in the garbage bag.
Well, yeah, I that's what I've been doing too lately, but I've still got 2 great big huge bins. I started to separate them. These are 2.5-inch strips, or these are strips, and these are odd pieces and that. Now the 2 of them have kind of merged together, and it's just one big lump of fabric. And I'm just going to have to get rid of it. I'm sorry. There's going to be people out there that are going to yell at me through the screen and say, "You can't do that. You can't do that." I'm going to do it.
If it's a bigger scrap, I'll throw it into a bin or something like that. And Stephanie gave me a really awesome idea. I needed a baby quilt back in October, and she said, if you have a charm pack, you can make it a 6x7 charm pack quilt. But I didn't have a charm pack, but I had all the leftover stuff from my socialites quilt. So I need to start trimming up some of my bigger pieces into pre-cut size so that if I need one of these projects, I've got it right in hand.
If it's pretty fabric, I'll do that because of the AccuQuilt. I will cut it down, especially to strips or things that I will use 2.5-inch squares, 5-inch square, whatever. If it's a fabric, I think I'll use again. But now that Ingrid's nephew his school has started a sewing club, now I just put most of the scraps that are like usable size in a box waiting to get dumped on those poor children.
Hey, that's
awesome.
a good idea. I have a friend that is the head of the of whatever they call it now. We used to call it home ec, but it's everything now, and she does fashion arts and stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder
Yeah.
if she likes some of the scraps.
Well, if
that's
it's fashion,
that's
you have to have
enormous.
pretty large scraps. But if it's other arts, I mean,
Well,
scraps.
not necessarily, because if you're mocking up what you're doing, you're using smaller for modeling.
Ah,
smaller
yeah,
scraps.
that's true.
Knowing her, she'd be able to make something out of it.
Yeah, she was. She makes dresses out of toilet paper. So yeah, really,
Yeah.
not used.
And
So
the
she's
kids-
the one who made Lady Gaga's dresses.
Yeah. That was meat, wasn't it? Another
Or at
easy.
the cost of toilet paper, that might be kind of expensive.
Yeah. That's
Oh.
gotten a little out of hand.
Katina01 from Texas is saying, take your scraps to the retreat. They'll be gone instantly. I have found that is not always true.
No.
Yeah, at the Georgia one we were at, we had stuff there that people
Didn't touch. Yeah.
didn't touch, didn't
Well, there
want.
was
Yeah.
so much. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there
there
was
was
so
so
much.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah. It got overwhelming. And I found in Millersburg, the upcoming retreat, that the ladies do take the majority of it, but I think my scraps are a little different than most people's scraps.
Yeah,
They're not
your
like,
scraps are like half yards.
yeah, they're not, because I'll cut enough that I need everything for the whole project. And I tend to, when I'm cutting, be sort of, and I know it sounds kind of weird, but frugal with my cutting. Like I'm really careful. And so then I end up having like a quarter yard left or a half yard, but I'm never going to use that fabric again. So I save it and I take it to the retreats, and usually people snap those up pretty quickly because they're bigger.
And we go, it's like kids in a candy store. We're
Yes.
like, oh, what's in that bag? Oh, what's in that bag? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
She's getting
Ooh,
rid
is
of
that
this.
bag
I'm
available?
so excited. Yeah.
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 I mean, they used to always, when I belonged to a guild, they had a big table where people had scraps on it, but the stuff on it, most of it, like this was garbage that they had on it, and people would be pawing through it, but nobody would take anything. And
Yeah.
the pile just kept getting bigger because people were bringing their garbage and dumping it onto the table. So, yeah.
And Landa made a comment. She said, I want that garbage container, Stephanie. Well, that's funny that you say that, because so many times over the last few years on YouTube, people have said, oh, save your scraps, put them in a mailer, I'll pay the shipping and I'll take them. And then I fill them up, and I've, taken all the time to keep them and store them and get a full box. And then the people are like, oh, I can't afford the shipping or this and that. So then I end up just throwing them away, because then I have this huge pile of stuff. So
I think what she was saying is she actually wants one of these, not what was in it.
oh,
Oh.
the container. Okay, got you.
You can't afford it.
Yeah, no.
Actually, what
But
you
the
can't
same thing with
afford-
scraps. I've had people tell me that all the time on YouTube. So I don't talk about
Yeah.
scraps too often anymore, because I always get those comments. But I've tried doing that. I've tried sending my scraps to people, and I can't afford to pay the shipping for every single person that wants my scraps. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And Jean says, I take scraps, use them to make my grocery bags, little pieces I put in dog beds. I've heard of people doing the
I have
dog
too.
thing.
yeah.
Yep.
Or kitty beds or whatever too. So like for shelters, I don't know if shelters will take those or not.
I've not even tried to ask because, they usually get a lot of, like, what shelters usually ask for here is your newspapers and your old towels, because they like newspapers to help keep
Yeah.
waste contained, and the old towels because you don't want to clean a rescue with a, brand new towel or stuff like that. You want to be able to dry them off on something older. But I haven't seen them ask for, little beds and stuff. So I don't know whether they just keep getting enough of those or whether they just don't think that people will donate beds, because they are pricey things for beds. Like a towel, an old towel, you're trying to get rid of anyway. People aren't normally trying to get rid of dog beds.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And Carla says, see if your local elementary's art teacher would like some scraps. Oh, that's an idea.
Huh.
I know we
If they
have,
do mixed media stuff.
Yeah.
yeah. I know the local library here is doing a mini quilt show either this weekend or next. So sometimes maybe if you watch your area, they might have resources to get you to donate scraps. But I'm with Stephanie. For the most part, my scraps end up going in the trash unless it's a fabric line that I really love, and then I can cut it down into pieces that are pre-cut size. Because most of the time when you're doing a project later, you're not looking for yardage for your stuff. You're looking for, pre-cut size scraps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like
don't
that calliope quilt I just did, like those blues,
Yeah.
I saved those, because good side pieces, I can still make something. I love that fabric line, but
Yeah.
I
yeah.
don't save. I used to save every little scrap when I first got into quilting. Now, I mean, if it's less than 5 if it's less than a charm pack size, I tend to say bye-bye to
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
you know. I'll save strips, like long strips, like the odd ones from a jelly roll. You didn't use all of them in it. I will
If you can
save
get a
those.
whole jelly roll strip, you can cut those out. But if it's
Yeah.
like 4 by 18 or something, that's not necessarily useful for keeping unless, as we said, it's a gorgeous fabric that you can't part with.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And
So I
then
don't
finding
know.
ways to get those organized in your scraps, that's a whole nother story because
I have
you got
tried
to figure out
to do
how to
it.
do you organize them by designer? Do you organize them by color? Do you organize them by color theory? Yeah, it's a
You can
nightmare when you want to do that.
And
Yeah.
you could spend a lot of time doing that too.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
Shannon mentioned the AccuQuilt, which is great. And that was one of my plans was I was going to go through all my scraps one day and I was going to cut them all, make my own little charm packs of things, curate it and all that kind of stuff. And that's what I was going to do. And have I done it?
Yeah,
No,
I get
Yeah.
it.
because you start on it and it gets boring very quickly doing it. And you're
Mhm.
thinking, yeah,
Or
but
it takes
I
up a
want to make
lot
a
of
quilt.
time that you could be sewing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Seriously. It does.
Right. And that's just it, Russ, is that I have so many things to do going on with kids and the business and things I have to make and things I want to make that I don't want to sit and cut scraps for hours. That's like hours I could be sewing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And Katina says, what about using the same size scraps for leaders and enders and then make a scrap quilt with them? I tried that. Pat Sloan, I think at the time when I first got into quilting, she talked about that. So I tried it. Yeah, no. Because you know what happened? I had all these leaders and enders and I'm running them through and the whole bit. And all I ended up with was a box full of leaders and enders. And it was more scraps. And I didn't
And
do
you
anything
didn't put
with them.
those leaders and enders together into bigger leaders and enders.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't. I started and then I went, no.
Because it's a lot of work. You don't want to do a pure random quilt. You want to actually have some thought behind it.
Well, yeah, but sometimes a pure random thought of quilt doesn't bother me. When I'm in the right mood for it, I will take random pieces of fabric and just sew them willy-nilly all over the place. And I've made actually you guys were sort of recipients of those, were you not? I gave you those scrap quilts that
Yeah.
Well, I was talking more of, I'm going to call it the organized chaos, where you have, I'm going to say a whole bunch of 2.5 inch squares that you're using as leaders and enders, and you end up piecing them into pairs. But then you got to figure out how you're going to organize those pairs into 4 patches, and then those 4 patches into 16 patches, and all the way up to a quilt.
and you've got a lot of seams when
Yeah,
you're done with something like that and you're throwing it on your
long arm.
long arm. So you want to make sure you've got everything pressed really as flat as you can get it. And that's kind of a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, is it also because you don't really want to reuse them and make a scrap quilt? You'd rather make a quilt that you really want to make. So
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd rather spend the time on a quilt I want to make. Plus, I think like, okay, you gave us those scrap quilts, Stephen. I don't know about the other two because I didn't really see them that closely, but mine is beautiful. And I think it's because number one, you and I have the same fabric taste, a lot of the same fabric taste, and you put all the colors that go together. But I can't imagine taking these scraps and like just randomly putting it with these. That would
Yeah.
break my brain. Like
Yeah.
my brain would be like, what the heck did you just do?
Yeah,
So-
those
There's other
quilts that I
people
gave
who
you.
love to do that, and
They
I'm happy
do.
with it.
And I have seen a lot of those quilts and I think they come out beautifully. But when I start to try to sew stuff like that, just random,
Yep.
my head goes, stop it right
Right
now.
now.
Like this is awful. So I can't do it.
But you see, that's the trick. You have to turn off your analytical brain
But I
and
can't.
just do it. And I know what you mean by that. I have to be in the right mood,
Yeah.
kind of thing. But you're right. Those 3 quilts that I gave each of you guys, those were scrap quilts. But my brain was working like I was thinking like, okay, I'd lay it out. Should I put this one next to this or
Yeah,
maybe
it's
not?
an
And that-
organized.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so sort of
Yeah.
like Stephanie, my brain wasn't completely like shut off and let's just stitch stuff together. No, because that kind of drives me crazy too.
Yeah,
But
I don't get how the folks who do that and love to do that. Like I said, their stuff comes out gorgeous, but
Mhm.
my brain don't work that way.
No,
We're too organized.
Yeah.
I'm too OCD and I think analytical. I can't just, yeah, no,
Yeah.
it won't work.
So I think that should probably end our little bit of discussion. You know, we've been on here for like 75 minutes now, which is, I think, a good time to start. So let's go around to everybody and talk about what we have coming up for the next few days. Stephanie, do you want to start this one?
Oh, okay, sure. So today was the sew day and that went really well. We had over 20 people at one point, which I think is like the most we've ever had on a Wednesday. So that was a really good day. So the next week will be another sew day, the last one that Stephen will be here for before he goes to Australia. So come on over on Wednesday. It's always a good day. We get a lot of sewing done. Today there was a lot of talking, a lot more than usual.
Yeah.
But we still got a lot of sewing done, which is good. And then this Saturday on my channel, live at 5, my normal time, Eastern time, I'm going to be doing a shamrock for St. Patrick's Day, but it's also National Quilting Day here in the United States.
Ah, yes, it is.
I'm not sure if you have that in Canada as well, but so check out all of your favorite creators on Saturday. It's a fun day. It'll be a fun day to sew together. So, and then I have some other things going on with Shannon, but I'll let her tell you about that. So.
So then let's go to Shannon. That way we don't leave people in suspense too long.
Okay, cool. So right after this, I will be recording my week in review podcast for tomorrow morning because I was busy having fun on the Stephen and Stephanie sew day today, so I didn't do it earlier. So that'll be up tomorrow morning, and then Friday night we have our Tree of Life cotton cuts sew, which is the Tree of Life one is the private Zoom. It's not on YouTube like Carnival is. So if you don't want to be on camera, you can come hang out with us, have a good time sewing up your Tree of Life clues, and we are incognito. No, you can be a spy and nobody's gonna know who you are. Then Saturday night after Shamrock, we are going to Ingrid and Philippa and Stephanie and I are going to start the Little Hooter sew along, which is a legit kit, a tiny little owl. And we're going to start off this Saturday night is going to be the easier blocks, and I'll actually email everybody of that group which blocks we're going to start with, so we're all on the same page with that. And yeah, we'll be showing how actually easy putting FPP together can be, and you don't have to fall in love with it, but it's nice to have the technique in your back pocket should you need it. So I'm excited about that.
It looks so easy.
I mean,
it isn't hard.
Yeah, it's really the easiest hard thing ever.
But you make it look a lot easier than the average person thinks it is.
Yeah, it's weird because really you're just sewing a straight line like you do with traditional piecing, but it's weird. It's easily hard. I don't know. It's weird, but it should be fun though because we're all working on the same one together. So that's gonna be a lot of fun, and I'm excited to share that with everybody too. And then Sunday morning, 11 a.m., it's back for Rock Candy, where we're going to be putting. So this past Sunday was the colorful 9 patches. And the pattern is right behind Stephanie. So if you look right behind her, those 9 patches are what we did this past Sunday. And then next Sunday will be the black and white, the quarter square triangles blocks, like they're the hourglass. I don't know what other name they might be called.
Quarter square triangle.
Yeah. Bow tie. I don't know. Whatever.
Bow tie.
Yeah. But that's what we're working on this Sunday. And then once we get those blocks done, it's just put together the quilt top the following Sunday after that. So it's a really good, fun sew. I finished up all of the blocks that I'm doing with phosphor, with Stephen and Stephanie and everyone today. So we've got some fun colors. I think this one might be my favorite. It's just so bright.
Yeah. It is pretty.
I love that.
So yeah, so that's it for me. That's enough. That's a lot.
Hey, you got a lot going on there.
Walter, what do you have going on?
Well, I've still got a shirt to finish before we go to Australia.
Oh,
And then I don't know if I'll start on the rock candy thing or I have a couple of bags to finish too. So
Put it on your list.
yeah, it's on my list.
Well, you
Awesome.
will be busy though on this coming Friday because we will have our next episode of So Chatty, and we will be doing the next in our series about machine embroidery, and we're doing 3D objects which combine both freestanding applique and freestanding lace, and we've already done some previous
Ooh,
sessions on those two things. So we're building people up gradually on each one of the more complicated, not complicated, just look more sophisticated, let's say, items for that. Saturday, pop-up sew day. So starts at 8 a.m. Eastern time till 5 p.m. Eastern time, but you can come and go as you please. You don't have to be there right at the beginning. The link for it is in the show notes of all my videos this week. So the vlog on Monday, the Idiot Quilter on Tuesday, and So Chatty on Friday. Plus, if you're on my mailing list, I already sent out the link to everybody on the mailing list, and all are welcome, new and old and in between. You can all join for that, and you just work on whatever you want to work on, and we have a good time usually from that. And then on Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. again, there'll be another lively, hilarious version of Stephen and Walter Live, where you'll get to see Walter and I disagree with each other and poke each other. Well, I poke Walter. He just tells me to F off. So you get all of that in there too. And I'm not even sure what our topic's going to be, but it never really matters, you know.
Yeah.
Never stick to it. So yeah, that's coming up. And yeah, that's us for this week, I think. Yeah. So
And
Also
Russ,
a busy weekend.
For me this week, it's my Saturday sampler week. So Saturday morning, I get to go to my local quilt shop, and they're starting a new program. So I'm very excited about that. I will have my 11Zs on Saturday at 11 a.m. I think I'm just going to continue working on the same project that I started last week, the Progressive Pride Flag that I purchased while I was at QuiltCon. Apparently, a lot of people are interested in that pattern. I've heard Stephen has purchased it and everything. Sunday evening, I end up posting my weekly vlog with the shenanigans that I have been up to all week. I have some fun videos and photos I've already taken this week of the fur kids. So that's always going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, then trying to survive next week. Work has just been a lot of fun lately with the new projects and stuff going on. So I'm trying to keep them balanced so I can get maximum time here in the sewing room with everybody.
you see, we do all of this, and yet we still manage to get things done.
Somehow, not
Yeah,
sure how.
Yeah, we tried to explore that and and explain it to you, but I don't know how well we explained it.
I think we did a really awesome job, but at least, giving people hints and clues as to how we keep ourselves organized so that they may take some of it with what they want, and then ignore the rest, like we always do with anything that we hear on YouTube.
That's true. So
And the
when
big
it's our-
lesson is, worst comes to worst, put it on the floor.
yeah, when in doubt, file it on the floor. Walter's got that down pat. Yeah. Okay. Right now he's got that look on his face like I am not amused.
I don't care what you say.
I
Yeah, we
love you,
know that
Walter.
Yeah, I'll hear all about it later. I will pay for this. You will not.
So our next episode of the social review, since we do the second Wednesday, looks like it's going to be April 10th. And that one is going to be on Shannon's channel.
Yeah.
And
That will be Sans, Stephen, and Walter, most likely.
unless they decide to get up really early.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
it's like 9 in the morning for you.
Yeah.
So
It's a matter of where you might be, and if there's
Yeah, it's also your internet.
And if I've got internet, yeah, and the whole bit. But we might make a surprise guest appearance for a minute. And if it's at 9 o'clock in the morning, well, Walter may be up, may not be up.
I'll probably be up.
You can jump on the bed.
When I'm on vacation mode, I usually get up early.
Or
Yeah.
we could do it from Stephen and Walter in bed. Oh, no, it wouldn't be a pretty sight. No, don't want to see that. No, sorry. No, no, not happening. Anyway,
Nice.
so yeah. Okay, so anything else, guys?
Yeah, do we have anything else we want to talk about real quick?
I think that does it for us.
I think so. I think we've done it.
Alrighty. Well, I hope everybody has an awesome rest of your day. And, we will see you guys next time we're together.